Part 1. The fastest person in the room is never the one in control. You think moving fast shows strength. You think quick answers mean power. You think sharp reactions keep you ahead. Cold mind sees the deeper truth. Speed is defense. Slowness is dominance. Because when you move fast, you're not leading. You're reacting. You're adjusting to a tempo you didn't set, matching a rhythm you didn't command. And every time you rush, to fill the gap, to fix the silence, to answer quickly, you give away frame without realizing it. The ones who move slow, they aren't slow because they hesitate. They're slow because they choose their timing. They let silences stretch until they become tension. They let the room shift to match their stillness. They let others reveal themselves. Unmoved. Slowness isn't hesitation. It's power. It's the art of letting space do the work for you. The fastest voice might look sharp, but the slowest presence controls the air. Because speed comes from survival reflexes, fear of losing ground. But slowness, that's command. That's structure. That's control over the invisible pulse of the room. In cold mind, it's not about talking more or moving faster. It's about shaping the field so others fall into your gravity. Fast may look impressive. Slow sets the pace. Everyone else is forced to follow. Part 2. Speed is survival. Slowness is strategy. You were wired for speed, not for power, not for sovereignty, not for command. Cold mind understands why speed is how your ancestors survived. Think about it. Snap decisions to escape predators. Instant reactions to sudden threats. Split-second movements when the bushes rustled, when danger lurked, when survival was on the line. Speed wasn't a luxury. It was emergency code, burned into your nervous system. You didn't survive because you thought clearly. You survived because you reacted faster than the threat could strike. That's how your biology was built. Here's the reversal. What once saved you now sabotages you. In the modern world, in negotiation, in confrontation, in leadership, speed betrays you. Because the first to react is the first to be steered. Every time you rush, you reveal your emotional spikes. You expose your pacing. You let others predict, adjust, and control you. Speed makes you readable. Speed makes you predictable. Speed makes you manipulatable. Meanwhile, the slow mind operates in another dimension. The slow mind holds tension. Without collapsing, it watches carefully. As others reveal their intent, it forces the environment to recalibrate to its deliberate pace. Slowness isn't freezing. It's strategic non-reaction. It says, I will move when I choose. I will answer only when it benefits me. I will own the timing, not let timing own me. Because here's the deeper layer. Timing is the invisible skeleton inside every frame. Whoever controls pacing controls emotional energy. Whoever controls emotional energy controls the space. But here's why most people fail. You weren't built for control. You were built for reflex. Your ancient biology wants to react, wants to chase safety, wants to collapse the tension as fast as possible. That's why slowing down feels wrong, almost dangerous. It feels wrong. To hold the silence, it feels dangerous. To pause, it feels unsafe. To let space stretch. Because your animal mind still believes if I don't react fast, I'll lose. But cold mind knows fast doesn't win. Fast doesn't dominate. Fast just loops you back into survival mode. Slow is where the shift begins. Slow isn't weakness. Slow isn't hesitation. Slow is structural command. Slow is the architecture. That bends the room's rhythm. Toward you, it's the deliberate pacing. That forces others to adjust. When you go slow, you don't collapse under urgency. You make others collapse into recalibration. Fast was survival. Slow is dominance. And here's the ultimate flip. When you embrace slow, you stop playing the old survival game. You stop matching the anxious pulse of a reactive system. You become the gravitational center, and everything. Every voice, every tension, every frame starts bending toward you. Part 3. Slowness forces the room to reveal itself. Fast minds hide. Slow minds expose. This is one of the most brutal truths inside cold mind strategy. Because every room, every conversation, every negotiation runs on invisible loops, and the fastest person in the room always misses them. Here's the loop. You hold the silence just a little longer. They feel the pressure rise. They get uncomfortable. Inside the tension, they scramble to fill it, to break the silence, to pull you back into their rhythm. But here's the twist. In rushing to speak, they reveal themselves. They show you their hidden cards. They show you their true motives, their emotional cracks, their quiet insecurities. While you stay still. You stay silent. You stay watching. You don't chase information. You don't push. You build a vacuum that forces them to surrender it. In psychological warfare, silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure with teeth. And pressure, applied patiently, cracks open systems that were never designed to hold it. When you answer fast, you match their urgency. You match their frame. You let them set the terms you're stepping into, their architecture. You're playing on their tempo. You're dancing to their emotional beat. But when you stay slow, you flip the system. You break their pacing. You interrupt their rhythm. You make them question their position. And when someone starts questioning their position, they reveal weakness. Just trying to stabilize, here's where most people break. Because slowing down feels unnatural. It feels dangerous. It feels like you're losing ground. Your nervous system wants to jump in to fix the gap, to collapse the tension. But cold mind knows whoever collapses the silence first loses the control. The cold mind moves slower than instinct demands, slower to speak, slower to react, slower to show confirmation. Not frozen, not hesitant, just deliberate. Because every extra second, you hold the pause, you're forcing the other person to reveal more. More assumptions, more mistakes, more emotional noise. They think they're leading the conversation. They think they're pushing you forward. But in reality, they're bleeding information because they can't stand the vacuum you've created. You're not controlling by overpowering. You're controlling by starving them. of the pacing they expected you to dance on. And here's the final shift. When you starve their rhythm, you don't just break their strategy. You break their posture. You break their internal balance. You make them lose emotional footing without even realizing what went wrong. That's the invisible art. You don't need to attack. You don't need to escalate. You don't need to dominate through force. You dominate by refusing to give them the rhythm they crave. You hold. You stretch the space. You let the room break itself open. You don't need to attack the room. You just need to slow down until the room tears itself apart, trying to fill the gaps you left on purpose. Part 4. Cold pacing. Move slower than their fear demands. Powerful people aren't the fastest. They're the slowest. With structure, with calm, with deliberate control. They don't scramble. They don't collapse into urgency. They hold the room because they hold the rhythm. Cold mind calls this cold pacing. It's not hesitation. It's not passivity. It's not stubbornness. It's gravitational leadership. A pacing strategy that makes others bend their tempo to you. Cold mind uses 3 lethal rules to weaponize slowness. These aren't tricks. They're engineered systems. They turn time into a weapon. Rule 1. Pause before react. The first instinct, under pressure, is always to react fast, defend, clarify, agree, push back. Your nervous system feels like it's taking control by moving fast. But here's the brutal truth. The first move is usually the first mistake. When pressure hits, kill the impulse. Pause for 2 extra seconds. Hold eye contact. Without blinking, breathe slower. Then the room. Let the silence settle. This pause isn't weakness, it's compression. You're compressing the room's expectations into a silence they can't escape. And whoever holds the tension longer owns the next move. Most people collapse early. Their nervous system can't handle the pause. But cold mind trains a hold. Wait. Anchor yourself. Rule 2. Delay without defense. When someone pushes you for a reaction, well, what do you think? Answer me. Is that true? Why aren't you saying anything? Most people crumble here. They rush to explain, to correct, to fill the gap. Cold mind does the opposite. Delay. Not nervously. Delay. Not nervously. You can. Smile slightly. Tilt your head thoughtfully. Let the silence stretch without apology. Because cold pacing isn't avoidance. It's engineering. You're forcing others to sit inside the weight of their own questions. And if they push harder, you slow further. You drain their urgency, like blood, from their emotional frame. This creates a powerful shift. They recalibrate. They lean in. They adjust downward. They begin matching you. Rule 3. Choose your tempo. Never match theirs. In every interaction, if they rush, you slow. If they pressure, you pause. If they collapse, you hold. You are The anchor. You are. The metronome. Matching their speed equals surrendering. Your architecture, controlling your own tempo, forces them to synchronize to you. Frame leadership always moves slowest, because slowness forces recalibration, and every recalibration they make toward you is a silent act of submission. Think about this. Every time you hold your own pace, you pull the room into your gravity. Every time you refuse to match their urgency, you strip their power to steer you. This isn't about being passive or stubborn. It's about owning the invisible architecture. You don't win by talking more. You don't win by pushing louder. You don't win by overpowering. You win by controlling the rhythm. They're forced to breathe inside. When you slow, the conversation, the negotiation, the confrontation, you force others to reveal their weak points. They try to speed up, to compensate. They scramble to fill the void. They bleed details and intent they never meant to expose. And you remain unmoved. The slower you moved, the faster they lose control. This is cold pacing. This is time as architecture. This is magnetic control. Not by force, not by noise, but by command of the invisible pulse inside the room. Part 5. He didn't push the room. He slowed it until it had no choice. He didn't rush, didn't fill gaps, didn't match their speed. He just held stillness, deliberate, dense, unmoving. When the meeting started, everyone was throwing energy. Fast questions, fast jokes, fast shifts in focus. Fast opinions, stacked on top of each other. It was a room addicted to motion. And him? He said nothing. He smiled. Once. He let the silences stretch. He didn't flinch, didn't fidget, didn't break the rhythm he carried inside himself. When asked a direct question, he didn't jump. He didn't fire back. He didn't rush to prove value. Instead, he paused, looked at the speaker calmly, tilted his head slightly, let 3 long seconds pass, and only then delivered a short, precise, clean response, without rising to the room's tempo. At first, the room got uncomfortable. They sped up more. They tried to overcompensate for the rising tension. More words, more jokes, more fast moves. But he didn't feel the pressure. He didn't rescue the pace. He made them drown in the silence. They couldn't escape. He let it squeeze them instead. And slowly, almost invisibly, the room began to shift. Voices dropped, half a register. Jokes faded. Side chatter dissolved. Attention consolidated. Without saying a word. About control, without demanding respect, without raising his voice. He became the gravitational center. Because cold pacing isn't passive, it's not about doing nothing. It's about deliberate design. You hold the silence. You stretch the gaps. You let the vacuum grow until the room's emotional heartbeat starts recalibrating around you. You don't move faster. You don't push harder. You don't dominate. Through noise, you dominate. Through vacuum. By the end of the meeting, the shift was complete. They deferred to his pauses. They adjusted their tone to his steadiness. They looked to him before making the next move, not because he demanded it, because he designed it. This is the invisible power of cold pacing. You don't pull the room toward you. You remove their tempo until yours is the only rhythm left standing. It's the architecture of slow gravity. When you stop, matching the noise. When you slow to a pace the room can't control, you force everything to orbit around you. This is how the cold mind operates. It doesn't conquer by force. It doesn't seize space by out-talking or out-shouting. It holds. It lets the faster system burn itself out. It watches the collapsing tempo and waits for the room to have nowhere else to go. He didn't command the space. He slowed it until it had no choice but to follow. Part 6. Final message. You don't force control. You freeze the frame until it bows. You keep thinking. Power is about pressure, about pushing harder, about moving faster. Cold mind sees deeper. Real power is about stillness, about pacing slower than anyone else can handle. Because when you slow the space, you don't chase attention. You don't fight noise. You don't defend your position. You let urgency starve itself. You let insecurity reveal itself. You let the room collapse under its own panic. Before you even take a breath, the most dangerous presence isn't the one that shouts. It's the one that stands, silent, calm, unhurried, while the world around it shakes itself apart, desperate to fill the vacuum. You don't seize frame by moving faster. You seize it by refusing to race. You don't win by overpowering noise. You win by becoming the magnetic pull that silence can't escape. Transition to next video. In the next video, we'll unlock energy domination, win before you speak, how to control space before words even leave your mouth. Subscribe. Slow the field. Starve the noise. Command without rush.